Now it worked. Perfect. So we are here. Hare Krishna. This is See Through. This is your podcast with me, Achita Gopi. Nice to see all of you. We have a really nice assemblage of people in the Zoom room. Really, really, really happy to be with all of you. Whether you're tuning in on Zoom, through Patreon, or you are tuning in on YouTube, and you've been tuning in on YouTube, I thank you all for being here. As usual, in order for you to join in our live Zoom room, you have to join Patreon. And I will put the link for Patreon in the chat box on YouTube. So that if you want to look into it, you definitely can. Lots of cool things that go on. There will be more prayers just secretly for the Patreon crew tomorrow. Figure like Tuesday is my Prayerfully Yours day, which if you have not been following on Patreon, it's actually really cool. It's where I share it's like a prayer journal, and I get to share my thoughts and what I'm deeply praying about and all of the things that kind of affect us and how verses make an impact, and they make cameo guest appearances in our lives. And I was just talking to a friend yesterday, and we were reflecting on the Bhagavad Gita, and they were saying that there's one verse. They decided to make a Bhagavad Gita group with their friends, and they said, like, we had one meeting and then never another one. But in that one meeting, they just decided to memorize one verse, and this was like over 10 years ago. And so they were saying that they were amazed at how that one verse has continued to make guest appearances in their lives. So Bhagavad Gita is that powerful. Our Sangha, being with each other, is that powerful. No matter where we are or what we're doing, I feel like the points that we make here with one another will continue to make guest appearances in our lives. They'll continue to show up. The lines that we read here and the different things that we hear from Krishna book will continue to pop up in our lives for our consideration and for those lessons that sometimes we need but don't really want, but Krishna gives us anyway. But it's kind of a sweet communication. It's a more intimate form of communication. It means Krishna's really there with us. He's not just being polite anymore. He's really getting in depth with us. So glad to be with all of you. We have been reading from Krishna book, and we'll continue reading from Krishna book. We are picking up in chapter 11 of Krishna book. If you want to read along, if you have a Krishna book, please feel free to get it. If you don't have Krishna book, the amazing thing is that all of Srila Prabhupada's books are available for free online on the internet database. And I'll be putting the link to the database in the YouTube chat as well, so that we can all participate, contribute, etc. The past 2 weeks, we had been talking about Krishna going home for lunch. Such a simple thing, but it can be such a big deal in Vrindavan. Basically, anything Krishna does in Vrindavan is a huge deal. And so lunchtime is no different. And we were hearing about how Mother Yashoda calls him home. And sometimes he listens, and sometimes he doesn't. And on the days when he doesn't, Mother Yashoda sometimes has to get very, very forceful. And she really has to like put her foot down. Sometimes she tricks him into coming home. And we were just reflecting on the fact that we have been out playing in this material existence for so long. Maybe it's simply time for us to surrender and go home. Let's go where we really truly belong, to that place which will actually make us happiest. So we are continuing in this same chapter with what happens next. And so we are picking up after Krishna goes home and Mother Yashoda is able to tell him that now we can properly celebrate your birth ceremony. So she wanted him to go home because it was his birthday. Starting with this sentence in the paragraph after that. After this incident, all the elderly members of the cowherd men assembled together, and Nanda Maharaj presided. They began to consult amongst themselves how to stop great disturbances in Mahavan on account of the demons. In this meeting, Upananda, the brother of Nanda Maharaj, was present. He was considered to be learned and experienced, and he was a well-wisher of Krishna and Balaram. He was a leader, and he began to address the meeting as follows. My dear friends, now we should leave here for another place, because we are continually finding that great demons are coming here to disturb the peaceful situation, and they are especially attempting to kill the small children. Just consider Putana and Krishna. It was simply by the grace of Lord Hari that Krishna was saved from the hands of such a great demon. Next, the whirlwind demon took Krishna away in the sky. But by the grace of Lord Hari, he was saved, and the demon fell down on a stone slab and died. Very recently, this child was playing between two trees, and the trees fell down violently, and yet there was no injury to the child. So Lord Hari saved him again. Just imagine the calamity if this child or any other child playing with him were crushed by the falling trees. Considering all these incidences, we must conclude that this place is no longer safe. Let us leave. We have all been saved from different calamities by the grace of Lord Hari. Now we should be cautious and leave this place and reside somewhere else where we can live peacefully. I think that we should all go to the forest known as Vrindavan, where just now there are newly grown plants and herbs. It is very suitable for pasturing ground for our cows, and we and our families, the gopis with their children, can live very peacefully there. Near Vrindavan, there is Govardhan Hill, which is very beautiful, and there is newly grown grass and fodder for the animals, so there will be no difficulty in living there. I therefore suggest that we start immediately for that beautiful place, as there is no need to waste any more time. Let us prepare all our carts immediately, and if you like, let us go, keeping all the cows in front. I can only imagine what I would think if there were that many calamities happening in this one place. Right? Like, okay, a lot of us don't really watch the news because then that really draws your attention to like what is exactly happening. You know, like you can read about New York and then all of the like the subway things that occur and all of the horrible things, but while that is all happening in New York, it's not all happening to just one kid. You know, like this isn't great. It's like, just consider Putana. There was a witch who tried to abduct this kid when he was 3 days old. And then that's not to mention like 3 months old. There was a cart that tried to fall on him. And then there was like a whirlwind, like a whole dust storm came, and then a tornado out of nowhere, and it picked up the kid. And interestingly enough, a whirlwind demon. So not just like a tornado, not just a natural disaster, but a personified natural disaster that tried to kill this. And then trees are falling on him, near him, almost on him. And so one of our friends is saying, I love how they don't decide that, hey, all this stuff is happening to Krishna, let's get rid of him. Now that is a very unique perspective, isn't it? They're kind of, it's like, look at all these things that are happening to this one kid. The common thread must be the forest that we live in. Let's leave the forest. But you know, they're not thinking, what's up with this kid? Why is this kid attracting so many deadly dangers? Like, what is happening with this child? And I really do like how we're not, but I it's also kind of sweet that they can't fathom Krishna being anything but wonderful. This is a child that Nandaraj and Yashodamaya prayed for decades. They were actually past childbearing years when they got Krishna. So in their hearts, there just can't be anything but wonderful auspiciousness attached to Krishna. So beautiful that they're just, any way that we can protect this child, we will do it. Even if it means packing up everything that we know and moving someplace else, we'll just try and do whatever we can to protect Krishna. I wonder if we can think that way about our spiritual lives. I want to do anything I can to just protect my Krishna consciousness. Whether that means moving, whether that means cutting out the distractions, whether that means I just can't think of anything but wonderful auspiciousness when it comes to my Krishna consciousness, and I want to protect it at all costs. Some of us have been praying for this spiritual life for decades, looking for solace, looking for that safe place where we can just be. Now we have it. Let us protect it at all costs, like the Brijbasis with their sweet Krishna. On hearing the statement of Upananda, all the cowherd men immediately agreed. Let us immediately go there. Everyone then loaded all their household furniture and utensils on the carts and prepared to go to Vrindavan. All the old men of the village, the children and women were arranged on seats, and the cowherd men equipped themselves with bows and arrows to follow the carts. All the cows and bulls, along with their calves, were placed in the front, and the men surrounded the flocks with their bows and arrows, and began to blow on their horns and bugles. In this way, with tumultuous sound, they started for Vrindavan. And who can describe the damsels of Braj? They were all seated on the carts and were very beautifully dressed with their ornaments and costly saris. They began to chant the pastimes of child Krishna, as usual. Mother Jashoda and Rohini were seated on a separate cart, and Krishna and Balaram were seated on their laps. While Mother Rohini and Yashoda were riding on the cart, they talked to Krishna and Balaram, and feeling the pleasure of such talks, they looked very beautiful. How adorable. It's like you're riding with children and you're pointing out different things. Oh, look at this field. Look at those flowers. Look at that goat. Look at that animal. Oh, look, have you ever seen anything like that? And just to see Krishna and Balaram and their excitement, their childlike pastimes, where the Supreme Person is fully absorbed in just being a child. The joy and the wonder when you see children's faces light up at just new atmospheres. We can only imagine how beautiful Krishna and Balaram must have looked, looking at the changing scenery, seeing maybe the approaching Govardhan Hill in the distance, arriving at this new place where there would be an unlimited amount of sweet pastimes. I also like how many people make a point to talk about the fact that the Brijbasis were farmers, but they still made it a point to carry bows and arrows. Right? They were going to do their part to protect their people. And I like it. It's actually really sweet. You've got these farmers and they're just, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to do the best that I can just to protect my family, to protect my loved ones, as we journey on this road that could be filled with anything. I mean, after all, there have been so many dangers that have come to us in this village and poor Krishna. So who knows? We must be ready for anything, vigilant at any moment. And that's us. We may not feel very experienced in fighting off the different things that can throw us off of our spiritual path. We might not feel experienced in fighting the mind. But when we get our tools and our resources and our little weapons, let's hold tight to them, understanding that maybe I don't have all of the competency, but Krishna will make up for that. I'm going to do my part and hold the bow. That's it. And Krishna will help me do the rest. Ever ready for anything, ready to protect our spiritual lives. In this way, after reaching Vrindavan, where everyone lives eternally, very peacefully and happily, they encircled Vrindavan and kept the carts all together. After seeing the beautiful appearance of Govardhan on the bank of the river Jamuna, they began to construct their places of residence. While those of the same age were walking together, and children were talking with their parents, the inhabitants of Vrindavan felt very happy. At this time, Krishna and Balaram were given charge of the calves. The first responsibility of the cowherd boys was to take care of the little calves. The boys were trained in this from the very beginning of their childhood. So along with other little cowherd boys, Krishna and Balaram went into the pasturing ground and took charge of the calves and played with their playmates. Interestingly enough, one day, as we journey through Krishna book, I will have to turn to the pages of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Because there are some really beautiful exchanges that happen. One of which comes from a very unlikely source. There's a queen named Padmavati. This Padmavati happens to be the mother of Kamsa. Spoiler alert in this Krishna book, after the demise of Kamsa, he does reach his demise, we'll find out. His mother, Padmavati, lives with Krishna in the palace and is taken care of as an elder. And she is a very interesting woman. She is not always the most pleasant woman. She was, after all, the mother of Kamsa. And she has some really interesting, like, old school views. But strangely enough, she loves Krishna in her own way. And so sometimes the Yadus are speaking and they're having a conference, and Rohini, the mother of Balaram, who also travels with Krishna throughout his life, which is quite wonderful, and some of the other elders are having a conversation and they're thinking, Krishna seems so restless in Dwarka. Maybe we should send him back to Vrindavan. Maybe just for a visit. Padmavati then speaks up. And she says, I don't think we owe those farmers anything. In fact, if you ask me, I think those farmers owe us. Why should we give them anything? From the time Krishna was a little boy, not even 5 years old, they sent him out to go work. As if they haven't heard of any child labor laws or anything. They wouldn't even give him shoes. They made him go traverse all through the forests of this village land. First, they made him live in squalor. Right? They sent him to the village. He's a prince. How dare they? Taking away all of his finery, they have him living amongst cows and in barns with animals. This is how they treat Krishna, the crest jewel of the Yadu dynasty. I don't think we should send him anywhere. In fact, he should never speak to those people ever again. They let him get abducted. They let trees fall on him. They let demons come after him. They put him in danger every day. And then they didn't feed him. So much so that he had to steal. This young, tender boy was desperate. So she's got some very skewed views on what the Brijbasis did in their upbringing of Krishna. She is not about that open adoption life. She thinks there should be no more contact. He's back with his biological parents. That's it. And everyone kind of just ignores her. They hear what she says and then they ignore her completely. But they don't kick her out. They let her stay. She's got some really interesting views, but somehow or other she loves Krishna. And Krishna allows that to be. There is room for all of us in Krishna's family. It's such a beautiful example. There is room for every type of personality in Vrindavan, in Krishna's eternal pastimes, even the kind of salty personalities. We'll hear of some really salty personalities. But even then, Krishna allows them entrance into his pastimes and says, here, you have an eternal place in these pastimes. You will play an eternal role in these pastimes. How merciful, how compassionate, how loving is our Krishna. He doesn't kick anyone out, no matter how weird or cantankerous or grouchy we might be, no matter how many mistakes we might make. Krishna will speak up on our behalf. On Ekadashi, my sister was reading to me from the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we were talking about the fall of Jayan Vijay. Jayan Vijay had made an incredible mistake. They had barred the entrance of the 4 Kumaras. They were sages, so powerful, great devotees. They had committed such an offense. They deserved a very intense and stern punishment. Yes, they had made a mistake. Yes, they deserved this punishment. And still Krishna asked, will you do this favor for me and lessen their burden, mitigate their punishment as a favor to me? Why? These were his servants. These are Krishna's people. We are all Krishna's people. And so, even if we trip up, even when we trip up, even when we make a mistake, Krishna will somehow speak up on our behalf, asking material nature, don't be so harsh on them. I would consider it a favor to me. How unfathomable is this? I know I don't have that kind of forgiveness. I don't have that kind of compassionate, all-merciful heart. But Krishna does. And this is why I want to guard my spiritual life with everything I've got. Whatever it takes, I want to guard my spiritual life because Krishna has been sticking up for me for lifetimes. He's been sticking up for all of us. Speaking up for us when we think that there is no one left to take up our cause. Krishna will do it. So as we get through this Krishna book, I will bring in that exact conversation from Brihad Bhagavatamrita because it's so much fun. It's so fun to see all of these different personalities pop up. And until I had read Shri Brihad Bhagavatamrita, I had never given a thought to Kamsa's mother ever again. You know he must have one. He was born. Although, if we read Mahabharata, that means nothing. I've seen people born out of pots and clumps of grass, and a sparrow carried something else and it dropped it in a river, and then next thing you know, a baby appeared. 5,000 years ago, this nature thing was working really differently. We are at a loss. And I kind of want to know where it all went. Like in a span of 5,000 years, where did it all go? Like the potency to grow a child in a clay pot. Where'd that go? Like now we have to, I guess, we shrunk down clay pots and into test tubes. So I guess it's still here, kind of. But it seems way cooler. It seems so much cooler 5,000 years ago. Is it just me? It seems like so like mystical and cool. And then somebody said some mantras and they put some ghee in a pot and it was like a pod. And then like Duryodhan's birth is just so interesting. I'm always like, where'd this go in 5,000 years? How'd we lose it? I'm gonna figure it out. This Vedic IVF business is something special. It's a new level. So I will bring in some of these things because I really feel like it's fun to get the complete context. I had never given thought to Kamsa's mother again, where she went after she had Kamsa. But Krishna did. Krishna didn't forget. And Krishna forever kept her under his shelter. There's shelter enough for everyone. Even if the views that we hear are so disturbing that we have to simply expertly ignore them and go on about our plan, Krishna doesn't leave anyone behind. So Krishna and Balaram were given charge of the calves. While taking charge of the calves, sometimes the two brothers played on their flutes. Yes, you heard that right. Sometimes even Balaram plays a flute. And sometimes they played with amalaki fruits and bale fruits, just like small children play with balls. Sometimes they danced and made tinkling sounds with their ankle bells. So, interestingly enough, I love traveling with my family because when we were in Vrindavan, we had bale juice, which was actually really, really good. It's really good, especially when it's very hot. Super cooling, really good for digestion, but it's really good. And we had bale juice, and we were looking at the bale fruits. And instantly, one of us would remember Krishna and Balaram would play ball with those. All of the cowherd boys would play with these. They would swing from these vines. This is Bandirvan. This is a Bandir tree. The Krishna and Balaram would hang from these. So it becomes a wonderful experience traveling with those of us who have journeyed through this together. So we might have to all just make a retreat one day, We just all, after reading this Krishna book together, we just all have to make a retreat, find ourselves some 10, 12 days in Vrindavan, and then go and explore and find all of the things that Krishna and Balaram used to play with. How they would sit and imitate monkeys. How they would crow like peacocks. These are the things that can make us excited. This is like looking at history. These places, these trees, these living entities, they have been here since Krishna was here. This dust of Vrindavan, that has been here. It has seen Krishna. It has felt the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. We can all get excited together. We can all figure it out. Friends, look. We can toss a bale fruit back and forth between us and see how easy it is to play ball with them. Sometimes they danced and made tinkling sounds with their ankle bells. Sometimes they made themselves into bulls and cows by covering themselves with blankets. Thus Krishna and Balaram played. The two brothers also used to imitate the sounds of bulls and cows and play at bullfighting. Sometimes they used to imitate the sounds of various animals and birds. In this way, they enjoyed their childhood pastimes apparently like ordinary mundane children. Once When Krishna and Balaram were playing on the bank of the river Jamuna, a demon of the name Vatsasura assumed the shape of a calf and came there, intending to kill the brothers. By taking the shape of a calf, the demon could mingle with the other calves. Krishna, however, specifically noticed this, and he immediately told Balaram about the entrance of the demon. Both brothers then followed him and sneaked up upon him. Krishna caught hold of the demon calf by the two hind legs and tail, whipped him around very forcibly, and threw him up into a tree. The demon lost his life and fell down from the top of the tree to the ground. Meanwhile, Krishna's like 4 or 5. It's a very strong 4 or 5-year-old. This is a very strong 4 or 5-year-old. Although, if you've ever seen a calf, they're cute. You can pick them up. You can hold them. They're really sweet and snuggly. So, but still, that's a very strong 4 or 5-year-old. The conversation that is had between Krishna and Balaram is something incredibly sweet. Krishna tells Balaram that he thinks that this is a demon. And Balaram says, "Oh, brother, I think you might be right." He says, "I think you should immediately kill this demon." But Krishna says, "But what will people think? I fear retribution from the people." Yes, he's 5. So imagine now, 5-year-old little Krishna with his 5-year-old cute little voice. "But I fear retribution from the people. What will they think about me if I kill a calf? We worship cows. We love them. It's my job, actually, to even herd them. What will the world think?" Balaram assures him, "Oh, little brother, don't worry. When you show the world that this is a demon, they won't rebuke you. They'll understand that you are doing what you do all along and you are protecting everyone in the universe." And so, with the permission of his elder brother, Krishna then kills this Vatsasura. Which, without the wonderful commentaries of our Vaishnavacharyas, how would we ever know about these conversations? The sweetest of conversations between 5-year-old little Krishna and Balaram, deliberating over the more serious calamities of the universe. But still just 5 tender, sweet boys. Once they performed this play, and Nandi was Balaram, and another little girl was Krishna, and they were about 5. And they had them say these lines, and I started to realize just how endearing it was. I looked and I understood how everyone could just be captured by Krishna. Because in that moment, it didn't matter that this was my daughter and someone else's daughter. All I wanted was to gather up these 2 children in my arms. Just, "It's okay, come to my house, let me feed you. Whatever you need." Nandi was asking me the other day about those plays because she was saying she remembered them, but not quite so sharply. I said, "I remember the first time she had done those plays and she was Balaram, I wouldn't even undress her from the costume. I remember going home and just letting her fall asleep and looking at the form of a sweet Balaram sleeping in my home. And I thought, this is Krishna consciousness. If one child could look that sweet, that I couldn't think of anything else. I didn't even want to undress her because I didn't want that moment to end. Imagine looking into your home and actually seeing the form of little Balaram, like a brilliant lotus made of crystal, cheeks like opals, beautiful curling locks of hair, just sleeping It was a meditation I wanted to keep with me for the rest of my life. This is what the residents of Vrindavan had all the time. Who can even estimate the good fortune of the residents of Vrindavan? Krishna doing anything is wonderful. Sleeping, talking, walking, glancing, smiling. This wonderful Madhurashtakam says that everything about Krishna is sweet. His eyes are sweet. His face is sweet. His smile is sweet. His gait, his walking is sweet. His friends are sweet. His pastimes are sweet. Even his anger is sweet. Everything is sweet about this emperor of sweetness. This is Krishna consciousness. Maybe we can't fathom it, but even just the desire to want to try is enough. The desire to want to try and fathom that kind of sweetness is actually devotional service. And Krishna will accept it as enough. How wonderful is our Krishna? So the demon lost his life and fell down from the top of the tree to the ground. When the demon lay dead on the ground, all the playmates of Krishna congratulated him, saying, "Well done, well done." And the demigods in the sky began to shower flowers with great satisfaction. In this way, the maintainers of the complete creation, Krishna and Balaram, used to take care of the calves in the morning every day, and thus they enjoyed their childhood pastimes as cowherd boys in Vrindavan. Now we hear about Krishna killing Arishtasura. Right? Anyone heard about that? And when Krishna kills Arishtasura, the gopis are very upset. And they say, "Oh Krishna, you have killed a bull. Therefore you are contaminated. You must wash away your sins in every holy river in the world." Right? This is how we get Radhakund Shamakund, isn't it? This is the wonderful, triumphant appearance of Radhakund and Shamakund. My friends, when we were in Vrindavan, asked me, they said, "The gopis made such a big deal about Krishna killing Arishtasura. Why didn't anyone make a big deal about Krishna killing Vatsasura? After all, he's still a cow. He's a calf even. He should be more protected. Don't we think? Why didn't they make a big deal out of it?" I said, "You're right." And I prayed. And literally that same evening, the answer came. And the very next day, we went to a place that I had been yearning to see. A place named Bandirvan, which, if we are able to go on this see-through retreat, we will journey to Bandirvan. It's a very sweet little village. Really adorable. And when we went to Bandirvan, there is a well, not too far from there, by the name of Venukoop. As the wonderful pastime goes, people did make a big deal about Krishna killing Vatsasura. The gopis, in all of their young girl wisdom, say, "Krishna, we won't speak to you because you killed a calf. You've got to atone for all your sins." Krishna, okay. Krishna takes his flute, Venu, and digs a well. This well becomes known as Venukoop. And all of the holy rivers merge into this well. Krishna bathes away his sins, no problem. There are 8 like bucket stands. You know how you have a bucket arm where you can put the bucket down into the well. There are 8 of them for all of the 8 principal gopis. They each have their own bucket that they can draw from this well. I was very fortunate to take some of the water from Venukoop and put it on my head. It is often said that if a woman who desires a child bathes with just a little water from that Venukoop, particularly on a new moon day, she will get the child that she desires. There are so many things that are linked to this Venukoop. And I just thought, Krishna is so real. This is Krishna's reciprocation. Literally, they asked me in the morning, and the very evening the answer came, and the next day we wound up going to that place. I didn't tell them until we got there. And when we got there, I said, do you remember when everyone asked me, how is this possible? Like, what's the deal? I said, yeah. We are now standing in the spot where they made a big deal about Krishna killing this calf demon, just as they made a big deal about Krishna killing Vatsasura. So Venukoop is so incredibly important. These forests of Vrindavan are so important. We can't imagine what the trees have seen. So hopefully one day we'll all be able to journey to Venukoop. I'll tell lots of stories. We'll be able to sit in that place where Krishna and the cowherd boys would play, not just once, but almost daily. It became a favorite place of theirs because the great banyan trees with their hanging roots and all of their leaves and vines were like a jungle gym. They would climb on them and swing from them. The villagers there are incredibly sweet. They will make you rotis. They will give you buttermilk. They are very, very, very eager to just bring happiness to the visitors. So I hope and pray that we all get the chance to visit this place together, be in each other's association, and somehow experience a little bit of the leftover of Krishna's mercy in this place. After all, they say that Krishna does not simply appear in Vrindavan and then that's it. He's always there, unmanifest, waiting for our hearts to uncover his presence. This is Vrindavan. All the cowherd boys would daily go to the bank of the river Jamuna to water their calves. Usually, when the calves drank water from the Jamuna, the boys also drank. One day, after drinking, when they were sitting on the bank of the river, they saw a huge animal, which looked something like a duck, and was as big as a hill. I've gone over this before. Ducks are cute. This thing was not cute. Some people say it looked more like a crane or like something with a sharp beak, or like a shoehorn bill animal. You know what? It's okay. I will post on the internet after this the descendant of Bakasura's cousin that I swear is still here terrorizing all of us today. This bird is a menace, okay? It has a beak and that it uses to bludgeon its victims to death. This thing is not okay. It's like prehistoric and it should be a dinosaur. And I don't know, but it's still here. I'll post pictures after. You can look for it on my Instagram. It'll be there in the stories. But this thing is not a duck. Ducks are cute. Ducks, they waddle and they quack and they're usually very nice. I mean, you know, sometimes geese are like really rude, especially in New York. You find that like geese are super rude. This thing was not a duck. No. Ugh. Its top was as strong as a thunderbolt. When they saw that unusual animal, they became afraid of it. The name of this beast was Bakasura, and he was a friend of Kamsa's. He appeared on the scene suddenly and immediately attacked Krishna with his pointed, sharp beaks and quickly swallowed him up. When Krishna was thus swallowed, all the boys headed by Balaram became almost breathless, as if they had died. But when the Bakasura demon was swallowing up Krishna, he felt a burning, fiery sensation in his throat. This was due to the glowing effulgence of Krishna. Even the effulgence of Krishna is that powerful. How amazing and sensational is our Krishna! It is mind-boggling. The demon quickly threw Krishna up, which is disgusting. Ew. I can only imagine he's covered with like bird spit and demon goo. Ew. So he threw Krishna up. And then tried to kill him by pinching him with his beaks. Bakasura did not know that although Krishna was playing the part of a child of Nanda Maharaj, he was still the original father of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe. The child of Mother Jashoda, who is the reservoir of pleasure for the demigods, and who is the maintainer of saintly persons, caught hold of the beaks of the great giant duck, and before his coward boyfriends bifurcated his mouth, split into two, just as a child very easily splits a blade of grass. From the sky, the denizens of the heavenly planets showered flowers like the chameli, the most fragrant of all flowers, as a token of their congratulations. Accompanying the showers of flowers was a vibration of bugles, drums, and conch shells. When the boys saw the showering of flowers and heard the celestial sounds, they became struck with wonder. When they saw Krishna, they all, including Balaram, were so pleased that it seemed as if they had regained the very source of their life. As soon as they saw Krishna coming towards them, they one after another embraced the son of Nanda and held him to their chests. Oh, what sweet boys. After this, they assembled all the calves under their charge and began to return home. When they arrived home, they began to speak of the wonderful activities of the son of Nanda. When the gopis and the cowherd men all heard the story from the boys, they felt great happiness because naturally they loved Krishna. And hearing about his glories and various activities, they became still more affectionate toward him. Thinking that the child Krishna was saved from the mouth of death, literally, they began to see his face with great love and affection. They were full of anxieties, but they could not turn their faces from the vision of Krishna. Friends, we may be full of anxieties, but we should not turn our faces from the vision of Krishna. Let us turn toward Krishna. Let us turn our faces toward the wonderful son of Nanda and Yashoda, who can do anything, who can protect anyone, and who loves everyone. Though we may be full of anxieties, let us not turn our faces from the vision of Krishna. The gopis and the men began to converse amongst themselves about how the child Krishna was attacked in so many ways and so many times by so many demons, and yet the demons were killed and Krishna was uninjured. They continued to converse amongst themselves about how so many great demons in such fierce bodies attacked Krishna to kill him, but by the grace of Hari, they could not even cause a slight injury. Rather, they died like small flies in a fire. Thus they remembered the words of Garga Muni, who foretold by dint of his vast knowledge of the Vedas and astrology that this boy would be attacked by many demons. Now they actually saw that all this was coming true word for word. All the elderly cowherd men, including Nanda Maharaj, used to talk of the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna and Balaram. And they were always so much absorbed in those talks that they forgot the threefold miseries of this material existence. This is the effect of Krishna consciousness. What was enjoyed 5,000 years ago by Nanda Maharaj can still be enjoyed by persons who are in Krishna consciousness simply by talking about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and his associates. We get the same benefits. Thus, both Balaram and Krishna enjoyed their childhood pastimes, imitating the monkeys of Lord Ramachandra, who constructed the bridge over the ocean, and Hanuman, who jumped over the water to Ceylon or Sri Lanka. And they used to imitate such pastimes among their friends, and so happily passed their childhood life. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 11th chapter of Krishna, killing the demons Vatsasura and Bakasura. Next week, I will again bring the story of Bakasura from the Garga Samhita. All of the residents of Vrindavan were remembering Garga Muni, who foretold all of these incidents. Garga Muni didn't just foretell them, he also wrote them down in detail, recorded them, well, spokenly, recorded them, so that we would all have them today in the form of Garga Samhita. There are so many details in that Garga Samhita about this story of Bakasura. So next week, we will continue hearing about these demons for part 3. But we'll hear about the killing of these demons in a little more detail. So I will work on bringing the details next week, and we will meet again for a very exciting story. I guarantee you, the way it was described in Krishna book is indeed a summary. Srila Prabhupada speaks about Krishna book as a summary study of Krishna's activities. That was a summary. When you hear these details, I promise you will be astounded. It is such an amazing pastime. One I've told before, but the greatest fortune of my life is just to be able to speak these again and again and again. That is the wealth that I want to accumulate. The ability to speak these pastimes again and again and again and again. That's all I want. So, can't wait to be with you all again next week as we travel within Vrindavan again. We get to go on pilgrimage every week. We don't have to be wherever we are on the face of the earth. We come together and we converge within Sri Vrindavan Dham. Which forest will we explore next? Which holy place will we visit next? May the dust of Vrindavan Dham always be on our heads. May it always reside within our hearts. And may these pastimes protect us all. Thank you so much for being with me. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna book ki jai. All glories to the pastimes of childlike Krishna and Balaram. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All glories to our Sangha and our virtual Vrindavan. Thank you. See you all again soon. Jai Shri Radha Govinda De.